All right, let's jump right in. We see black and white stuff all the time, right? Old movies, artsy photos. There's even a setting for it on your phone. But what if it's not just a filter? What if I told you it's something way, way deeper than that?
So today, we're going to dig into this really cool concept called monochrome cognition. And trust me, it suggests a totally new way of thinking about what happens inside our brains when we see a world without any color. Get ready, because we're about to explore a framework that pretty much flips our whole understanding of perception right on its head. The basic idea? Seeing in black and white isn't just about looks. It's a fundamental change in how our minds actually operate. And here it is. This is the big, provocative idea that this whole explainer is built on. The claim that seeing in monochrome is an independent cognitive state. Seriously, that is a bold statement, and it completely reframes the entire conversation. So what on earth does that even mean, a cognitive state? Well, it's got nothing to do with aesthetics or how a picture looks on a screen. No, it's all about how your brain is fundamentally processing reality itself. It's like switching your mind into a completely different operating mode. Now, to really grasp this new idea, we first have to break down the old one, this notion that black and white is just a style. Let's take a closer look at the conventional view and see why it just doesn't hold up. Thinking of it as a style is the easy way out. It's kind of like slapping an Instagram filter on a color photo. It's an effect, a choice, right? But that perspective is so incredibly limited because it completely ignores what's actually going on inside our heads. And this slide, this really nails the problem. The style idea is reductionist. It basically says you just delete the color data. It's superficial because it only cares about the final image, not the rewiring happening in the brain. And you know what? It's totally incomplete. It has no way of explaining why a monochrome world feels like a whole different reality, not just a cheap copy. Okay, so we've seen the problems with the old model. Now for the fun part. Let's start building up this new framework. What exactly is monochrome cognition? Here's the most important takeaway. Monochrome cognition shifts this whole conversation away from art class and puts it squarely in the lab, in the world of cognitive science. It's not about a filter on reality, it's about a different mode of processing reality itself. And check out this table, it makes the difference so clear. On one side, you have style. Its home is an art, it acts like a filter, and it's all about the final product. But on the other side, as cognition, its home becomes science, the effect is a deep mode of processing, and the focus turns inward, to our own subjective state. It is a total paradigm shift. All right, so if we're going to call this a real cognitive state, we need to know what defines it. What are its key ingredients? Let's get into the mechanics of what this new way of seeing might actually look like. So the theory is really built on three main pillars. It all kicks off with a complete reorganization of our perception. That then causes a massive shift in what we pay attention to. And finally, all of that leads to a totally unique subjective experience. So let's start with that first pillar, perceptual reorganization. When color disappears, your brain doesn't just see less. It actually gets to work elevating other things. Cues like contrast, the feel of a texture, the pure shape of an object, and the way light plays on surfaces, luminosity. All of a sudden, that's the new primary language your brain is speaking. And that leads us right into the second pillar, the attentional shift. Without color screaming for your attention, your eye has to find new things to focus on. You start actively hunting for patterns of light and deep shadow. You find yourself following the curve of a line. You notice all the subtle shades of gray. You are literally analyzing the scene in a new way. And that brings us to the third and maybe the most mind-blowing part, subjective experience. See, in this state of monochrome cognition, the world doesn't feel broken or like something's missing. It's experienced as a complete, self-contained reality. It is not a worse version of our color world. It's its own world entirely. So, you might be thinking, okay, that's a neat theory, but why does it matter? Well, this is more than just an academic exercise. Thinking this way opens up some seriously exciting possibilities for science, for philosophy, and even for art itself. For cognitive science, this isn't just talk. It's a testable idea. Can you imagine? We could put someone in an fMRI, immerse them in a monochrome world, and actually see if the parts of the brain that process texture and form light up more. We could potentially measure this shift in real time. And for philosophy, man, this goes deep into questions about consciousness. Is the subjective feeling, the what it is likeness of seeing in monochrome, a totally different kind of conscious experience from seeing in color? It makes you really think about how our senses build our reality. And of course, for the arts, this gives us a whole new toolkit. A film critic could do more than just say a black and white movie is atmospheric. They could analyze how the director is intentionally putting the audience into a different cognitive state, forcing them to engage with light, shadow, and form in a way color just doesn't allow.
Which leaves us with one last huge question to chew on. If a whole different cognitive state is possible just by taking away color, what other realities are hiding right there in plain sight, just waiting for a tiny shift in our perception to unlock them? It really makes you wonder what else our brains can do.